Hello and welcome to the Human Echoes recap for Z Nation Season 3, Episode 7. This one's called Welcome to Murphytown, and you can call me Albert. He totally called it Berg, because guess who totally called it? Guess who totally called it? It was this guy. I called it Murphy's eating brains. He's on the brain train. I want to keep going. I want to be awesome and rap like Zaya in this episode, but I can't. I just stopped. I rhymed brain and train, and that's all I can do. That's all I can do, you guys. That's all the rapping. That's as rhythmic as it's going to get in this episode. But this was a great episode. Another great sort of moving forward with the mythology episode. I'm fine with the sort of individual encapsulated storylines. This one definitely was about finding out what's going on with Murphy and the gang coming back to Murphy, and 10K having a secret from Warren, and exactly how much power does Murphy still have over 10K, and what does it mean to be a blend, and what's the man doing because he finally showed up and Citizen Z's back, and holy crap. Let's start with Citizen Z. Because again, he's got the smaller, not less important part, I would say, especially not in this episode, but smaller little arc. Although this all intersects, but I like sort of doing the individual storylines, breaking them down. Citizen Z has made it back to Camp Northern Light, and he's with Zaya and her grandparents, who continue to be awesome. Amazing moments when Grandpa Inuit, I forget what his name is, goes to change or check the fuses, zaps himself, and it almost felt like a legit thing that could happen in this show. Like, did he just zap himself to death completely at random? But they played it for comedy. He's about to get mercy. Citizen Z's like, oh no, I give you mercy. And he's like, don't shoot. Pulls the Doc from season 1, episode 3, I think, where the Doc they thought was a zombie. But, still a great moment, and they start to work getting the base put back together, which I was glad that there was more to this than just, man, these people are now tagging along with Citizen Z, and sort of he's going to help them out. It's a two-way street. He's not just giving them sort of supplies, and in return he has companionship. They're actually helping him fix stuff up, which I never thought about. And he says it more explicitly here, the idea that he can fix, the stuff is not broken beyond repair, but he can't fix it by himself, possibly because of a lack of experience, but also because some things are just not a, one person job. And so with Zaya and her grandparents on board now, they're able to get quite a bit of Camp Northern Light back up and running in a way that feels believable, right? Like we get a Citizen Z back. So I hate when a show does this, where it goes in a circle, right? Like we started here and then we move away from that, but really we're just going back to the status quo unless you accomplish something. And I think here we're kind of getting back to the status quo. We're getting Citizen Z back the way that we liked him before, but we've changed the game. And like they lay down definitively this marker that the game has changed, with Zaya being there, with her talking to Citizen Z about Addie Carver, which I like that they addressed that Zaya knows. She's like, I know you like that Addie Carver person. I'm not jealous. Could totally take her on in a fight though. Just saying. And they're so adorable when they get the power back on. There was something so satisfying about them getting the power back on when they had their first kiss together. It was like, I guess it was their first kiss. Like, I don't know if they've had a kiss before, but definitely like there was something I was like, yeah. I mean, I don't get excited about people kissing in TV or movies. I mean, it's fun. I get excited about me kissing, when it's my wife, and that's all great and everything. But I like, there was something very, very satisfying about seeing them accomplish something and then, kiss each other and sort of culminate that friendship / romance thing that they've had going on for a little while. She continues to be great. He continues to be great. They're both they're kind of both oddballs. DJ Qualis, who plays Citizen Z, doesn't like, he looks kind of odd. It's not sort of the typical Hollywood face. He's got the big nose and kind of the higher pitched voice. Not that I have any judgment to say about that by any means, but he doesn't feel like this is a Hollywood leading man. And you look at her and you don't feel like this is a Hollywood starlet right there. But together they have this great wacky sort of chemistry that I really, really love. And it just works. She gets on the radio, does the rap / hey, we're back to everybody thing that I alluded to earlier. And it's just beautiful. It's corny. I'm not gonna say it's not corny, okay? Because I was a little bit like, this is kind of corny, but also that fits her character so well. She feels like that kind of a little bit corny character, a little bit silly, but not afraid to be that, not afraid to put herself out there and say, hey, listen, I'm not, I'm not Kanye by any stretch of the imagination, but I got some skills and I'm gonna drop a beat. And she gets to be on, and I think her being the first one to make the broadcast was the best way they could have sort of put their flag down to say, this is different. This is what's different about it. It's not just Citizen Z anymore. He's got help. He's got this companion here now. She's going to be part of this operation, not just, some window dressing in the background so he can have, so now Citizen Z doesn't have to be lonely. She's an actual character who's actually going to do stuff in the show. And that was great. I guess I'll move on by level of importance, and this one's relatively important, but I think slightly lesser so, was Warren's gang. We finally get Doc and Warren back together, and, 10K and Addie, everybody, the main sort of good guy gang at this point. And I did like the opening of the show where, well, not the very opening, that's with Murphy and the stuff, but where Doc is pushing 10K along in the buggy. 10K still zonked from that cocktail he got from Doc. And, they see the car. It's Warren driving by in the most pimpin' ride you can ever imagine, which is fine. I like that they just sort of don't even address it anymore. They just car hop. Like, we've got another car. Which it bugged me in season 2 when they got the cool El Caminos and then they were just gone in the next episode. Partly because they made such a big deal about it. But by now, I think we can just write it off. Like, okay, Z Nation, they just keep getting new cars. Cars break down, cars run out of gas. It's way easier just to hop into another car than to try to keep one car. And they start sort of trying to figure out what's going on with 10K and what's going on with Murphy. 10K has all the information. They know he's been there and he's giving them the information that they need, but he keeps sort of slipping. He keeps going into, well, Murphy, like, we can't hurt the Murphy. We can't do, he says these things and then he catches himself. He's like, no, I can't. Right. Like, that's not right. That's not the right thing to say, but he's not willing to tell Warren. And I like that they're not playing this as if Warren doesn't know. Okay, because a lot of times you'll have one character have information and the other character doesn't have the information, and the one character you're like screaming at, as a viewer, you're like, why don't you just tell them what's going on? And on the one hand, they make it really, really clear why 10K won't just tell her what's going on, right? Because, well, there's two angles here. What 10K says to Doc is that he doesn't want to be seen as weak. He doesn't want Warren to think that he's under Murphy's control, which I absolutely buy. I mean, from a character standpoint, I can see why 10K would think that. And I believe that, would be something that he would feel in real life. However, the second layer to that is we still don't fully understand how much control Murphy has long distance. We know that, 10K has this aversion to hurting Murphy because he's a blend now and he hasn't had a shot in a while. I don't know if that aversion then also translates subconsciously to not wanting to tell Warren the information she needs to know about him being a blend. I think that is at least part of the factor, but I can't say it's all of the factor. When 10K says to Doc, I don't want her to see me this way. I don't want her to think of me as weak. That I don't think he's lying. I don't think he's making something up because Murphy made him make something up. But I do think that there's more to it than even 10K understands. The other, they keep sort of running into the red hand. That's something obviously they're going to pay off going forward, either in this season or future seasons, as being an important thread that we're going to keep pulling. And the other thread that I'm just going to bring up, not that it became important in this episode, but they do kind of keep hitting this over and over, is these number stations, which, I mean, there's one school of thought that you could say maybe that's related to Zona, but I don't think so. I don't think this is a Zona thing. I think this is something else that they're just reminding us of every once in a while we got introduced to them, I think, on episode 1 of season 2 of these number stations, and they just throw it out there. They're like, hey, number stations, still a thing, guys. They mention that in this episode and then kind of, let it go. So that is good. And with the information that they have, not complete information, but again, Warren, I think, knows something is going on with 10K. I mean, by the end of the episode, she obviously knows, but throughout the episode, she's not 100% trusting of him. She's very much not wary, not standoffish to the point where, she's being a dick to 10K, but just sort of saying, okay, what went on? Tell me the real story. And having some real suspicions about what went down with 10K and Murphy. And I think that shows a lot of promise on her part. She splits the team up. Doc, very insightfully says, from the Scooby-Doo point of view, don't like it when we do this. Splitting up is bad. That's not a good time. Why are we splitting up? But they need to go and get Lucy, who Murphy is also planning to go and get. Several times we just see a giant map in the background with Operation Lucy written on it, which seems like kind of not a lot of planning, but he definitely is heading towards that way. So they have to split up, and the rest of the gang goes to Spokane, which brings us to Murphy, who, now that we've sort of intersected there, we can't avoid talking about his storyline anymore. And it is, again, probably the most important part of the story here. And again, Keith Allen doing great work for this show, just really carrying this on his back. I mean, not carrying it on his back like everybody else is just dragging him along, but you gotta buy into this idea of this guy who is not completely megalomaniac, but still very much into the idea of himself as a savior. Like, he legitimately sees himself as these people's savior, to the point where he's cool with taking favors and having them at his beck and call. And he walks such a great line of being selfish and selfless. But, as I said earlier, totally called it, the brains thing is becoming an issue for him, to the point where it's starting to cloud his judgment a little bit. At the very beginning of the episode, we have a great sequence of a man being chased through the woods by a man and a pack of zombie children on a leash, which for me was just, we haven't seen that many zombie kids. We had Zombaby was episode 2, but zombie kids hasn't been a real big part of the show. I mean, understandably so. Child actors are difficult to deal with. You don't have to have a whole bunch of people together. It's easier to get a bunch of adults together. But there was something visceral and fascinating about this pack of zombie children. And at first I was like, why are these guys, on the leash? Why are they allowing themselves to be driven after this guy? Not taking into account the idea that they could be blends. Turned out they were, being driven by a blend who, after this guy that they're chasing is driven up into a tree, the guy who's holding the leash says to them, "Have you heard the good word of Murphy?" Like, knock, knock. We're here from Jehovah's Witness. Let me tell you about Jesus. I love that they're proselytizing and also like driving around zombie children on leashes. That's just so great. You see Murphy with his giant Murphy van, Fear No More, driving around a few times with the sort of Warren's group. They encounter that, and it's clear that Murphy is going large scale with this. And the passage of time is not exactly delineated, but we can tell that stuff has been in progress, that these people have started to rebuild the civilization. We're getting people who are good at various different jobs. We see that process happening. Murphy is assembling a team to get things back on track. However, in the process of assembling this team, he also runs across the man who comes in with an amazing ploy to get into Murphy's compound. We see him at the beginning. We don't see his face. They hide his face until a reveal, which was kind of not a great reveal. Like, it wasn't like, boom, 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 there's the man. So I wasn't 100% sold on this decision to keep him hidden at this point in the episode. I thought maybe that it would have been better just to let us know, hey, the man's coming, because his plan is great. Like, he's a really smart, really driven guy. By the end of this episode, we'll see exactly how driven he is. But his plan, by stealing the guy's arm and getting that, he gets the vaccine given to a dead guy's arm, which great visual storytelling there, showing us the tattoo. They had to do a flashback, which I was annoyed by. Like, I thought they made it really, really clear with how they did it, that it was the other guy's arm. He killed the guy. He took the bulldog arm. This is another thing that maybe would have been clearer if he just shown his face at the time. But he has this great plan, gets a dead arm vaccinated, throws up on command, then makes the X on his own arm without the vaccine, puts the sticker on it, and is able to get in. Let's not question why he doesn't get eaten by the zombie moat. Maybe, they do have the drawbridge there and everything, so that's probably, they're probably not going to instantly kill him. But he goes up, and Murphy is instantly suspicious of him. I like that we're sort of defining Murphy's skills here a little bit more, because Murphy knows something is off about the man. He knows enough to be suspicious, but he can't 100% be certain that he hasn't had the blend vaccine. And that is useful information from where I'm sitting, because it means that Murphy is fallible in this particular endeavor. And he, asks the man, hey, I need to see something. Show me a sign, for lack of a better word. And the man kills a guy, which is sort of, well, yeah, he's the man. He kills people. That's not the most convincing thing that I've ever seen him do as far as proving to Murphy that he's a good guy. But then Murphy says, all right, I need brains. Eat this guy's brains. And the man does it. Now, he makes it look like he eats the whole brain. He does not. He eats a couple bites, and then, he throws up later. But still, this guy is just so next level, willing to do whatever it takes to get to his man. The man. Anyway, to complete his list, eating brains, even if you're going to throw them up later, is just bizarre. But we also find out in that, again, such amazing storytelling here. In the one sense, we're like really getting a sense of how far the man will go, but in exactly the same moment, we're getting a sense of Murphy really needs these brains now. Like, he's getting addicted. He turns down normal food. Delicious looking ribs and steak and whatever, which they do. They hit this point hard in this episode to make me hard enough to make me think it's going to come up later, where they show that the blends can eat meat, and if you're not a blend, you're not able to eat meat. Now, I don't think this is a new thing for the show. I think that they've sort of had it in the mythology, but it's not something I'd considered up until now. And they really make a point to show Warren's crew eating crickets, because somehow eating zombie meat, dead cow meat, doesn't work for them. I don't know if eating dead meat will turn you into a zombie, or if you just get really sick, or how exactly that works. They haven't defined that very clearly, but they do again, that's one of those things where you've got multiple levels of storytelling going on in, hey, showing Murphy A isn't eating meat, and B showing there's something special about these blends because they can eat meat, and we see these other guys not eating meat and having to eat crickets, which, I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world. When I watched, I don't know if you guys have seen Snowpiercer, but there's a scene where they reveal that they've been eating crickets, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's the worst thing ever. And I thought, the only thing that bugs me about that is that they ground them up and turn them into Jello. Like, at least give me some crunch here, you guys. Somebody, if anybody has any dried crickets, send them to me. I would love to try dried crickets. I mean, I eat sunflower seeds all the time. How bad can crickets be? But the blends get to eat meat. Murphy doesn't want meat. He sent the man out to get brains. And previous to that, the man had seen the little girl who Murphy had saved in episode 2 or 3. First of all, depending on how we're counting IMDb. And secondly, I just don't remember that well. But, you know, he saved the family and sort of started his Murphytown with them. And the man calls out to her and says, hey, Lucy. And says it with such confidence that I questioned. I knew it wasn't Lucy, but once he said, hey, Lucy, I was like, what? Why does, like, it was interesting to show him making a mistake. I thought that was really great because the man is an amazing character, and yet to show him not being perfect, right? To show him having gaps in his knowledge and sort of making these leaps and everything really, I think, worked well for me. And to the point where, I've gotten off track order wise. I know that I'm going out of order anyway, but the man comes back with Murphy's brains. Murphy is just digging down on those brains, needs those brains bad. I think he's going to end up eating his people, especially if he starts recruiting enough. Enough. I mean, he does talk about how that not everybody's going to want to be part of their colony, but still, if they end up at war with the Red Hand or with anybody, like, he's going to be hungry for brains and he will eat blend brains. I feel pretty strongly about that. We haven't got there yet, but I'm excited to see when we do. But he's definitely coming under that grip. He gets the man to bring him those brains. The man takes the opportunity as Murphy is scarfing these brains down that he's clearly jonesing for to pull a gun on him and say, hey, you're coming with me. I've got leverage. Takes him down to the car, shows him Lucy, obviously turns out not to be. And that was a great reveal as we see that Murphy's totally willing to control even little kids to his benefit. Although not all the time, but, you know, he definitely just gets into her head and makes her jump out at the man and gets the advantage over him pretty quick. The man is, you know, then tied up. They're all sort of got guns on him and everything. They question him. They say, hey, we're going to get some information out of you. The man doesn't give him the information. Murphy goes to turn the power back on because they've got hydroelectric going. They finally unclogged all the zombies from the turbines, which kind of a weird problem to have, but I mean, it's Z Nation, so they have lots of weird problems. And when they come back, the man is gone, having escaped by apparently chewing through his own wrist or something. His hand is off and giving the middle finger to Murphy. And wow, is that incredible and intense. And I was like, I don't know what to expect at this point. They simultaneously made this guy human in a sense because he can't, like, he doesn't know everything. He makes mistakes. You know, he assumes that Lucy is the daughter when Claire, you know, when the daughter's Lucy when she's not. But right after that, flip the tables back and say, he's still a major force to be reckoned with. And, you know, we get to see Murphy having a triumph and a loss at the same time. This is clearly going to be a problem going forward. But on the other hand, he does have the power back on. And that's almost a magical moment where we see Spokane light up as Murphy turns it back into a semi-functioning city, which I thought was a really great way to do that. 10K runs off. I can't remember. I'm blanking on whether he was able to get the serums, but as the group is sort of headed into Warren's group is headed in to try to take down Murphy, which good luck with that, guys. You got 4, maybe 5 people, even 10K, even with 10K there, Murphy's got a bunch of people, arguably an army. That's going to be tough. And now 10K's on the run. Where is he going to go? I legitimately don't know what to expect here because I don't think he wants to go back to Murphy, but he's got that sort of innate sense in him. He wants to be away from Warren because, again, either because of the serum sort of clouding his judgment or because he's ashamed. It is not completely clear to me what his motivations are, but they just keep, I've said this before over and over and over again, but the storytelling in this show is many, many times just impeccable. I mean, this episode especially, so many scenes set up so much stuff and did so much work within the story, setting up different characters, abilities and motivations and what they're doing and what they can do. And I thought it was great. I thought this episode was great. We're going to get another sort of monster of the week episode next week with the election episode, and I'm fine with that. As long as I felt like season 2 was like all monster of the week episodes, where it's just like when we run into that wacky thing, and then we run into this wacky thing, and there's another wacky thing. I like that we have wacky things in Z Nation, but they can be spaced out more now in season 3 with the plot that's happening at the same time, and of course it'll be very timely with the election. So I continue to be just in love with this show. I hope you guys are loving it too. Season 3 chugging along full steam. I hope they keep going. I just really hope they're getting the numbers to renew for season 4 and season 5 as they've talked about doing, because I want to see where this crazy, wacky, wonderful story is going. And I will be there every step of the way if they keep making them like this. So until next time, I'm Albert Berg. Hit that like and subscribe button if you like this and you want to see more. Just a reminder, we are in Albert versus the Asylum. Season 3, I'm calling this. I do about 10 episodes at a time and release them 1 week apart. First episode is out now. It is Night of the Wild, a great dog apocalypse story from the Asylum. It's a movie. If you guys don't know, the Asylum also does movies, the people who produce the Z Nation show. So if you want to see me make fun of the Asylum's movies, check that out. And I will see you guys next week with another episode of the Z Nation Recap.